का कौन सा पेज है?
अरे फेसबुक पे डाल
फेसबुक से
हाँ जा सकते हैं
पेजेस का वो नहीं है
है ऐप
So this session is pretty much about getting the tone, set for the day, and which is if we will try our best to get questions from the audience. But if you want to ask some live questions, you can just tweet to us at hashtag AskNIC. The purpose of this session is to basically know from the different panelists that we have here, what do we need to do to get started? I think it's been a while that we have been in this ecosystem. But what is it exactly that we need to do to get to the next level? We have Puram with us, we have Meena with us, we have Shan with us, and we have Athar with us. And what I would like to start with is for them to give each one of them an intro of themselves, along with the organization that they represent, and what sort of work that they are doing right now for the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Pakistan. And we can go one by one, so we can start with Puram.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. So my name is Param. I'm currently an industry head for Asia Pacific at Google. And within that, I kind of head out the team that looks at the Pakistan market. My background is kind of all over the place. I'm from Karachi, went to the US for college, studied in a liberal arts college, studied economics, Mandarin, and computer science. Thereafter went into consulting in the US, then investment banking in Pakistan and China. Did my MBA in Singapore, and then since then have been with Google in Singapore. I'm very, very passionate about the startup ecosystem, and in fact my team's mission in relationship to Pakistan is digitizing Pakistan. And in that regard, I work with the incubators here to basically talk about how they can leverage online for their startups to scale. I also mentor a few startups across Pakistan on an ongoing basis. Very, very excited to be here, by the way, and congratulations on the launch of the NIC. Really, really excited to see where this takes us, especially here in Islamabad.
My name is Meena Tariq, and I'm the Accelerator and Strategy Lead at Invest to Innovate. Invest to Innovate is an ecosystem. It's an entrepreneurship ecosystem builder, and one of the things we do is we run an accelerator here in Pakistan. It's a traveling accelerator, a 4-month-long program that happens towards the tail end of the year. Beyond that, we do a lot of events to support and facilitate different types of startups in Pakistan and connect them to opportunities outside of Pakistan. We also do programming support and curriculum building for incubators within and outside Pakistan. So we are actually doing the curriculum and running the sessions for the NIC, the incubator here. And we've done incubator support and curriculum building in Bangladesh, Iraq, Ukraine, and other places as well.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Sean Rahman. I work for the World Bank in Washington, D.C. So the bank primarily has been assisting the government of KP through the KP IT board for about the last 3 years on sort of broad programs to improve digital skills, increase entrepreneurship, and basically provide opportunities to youth in the digital economy. So we've been doing a bunch of sort of interesting things, everything from civic innovation by partnering with Code for Pakistan and bringing young people into government departments, all the way to designing a freelancing program to connect kids to jobs on the online marketplaces. And now we're sort of more focused on a broader digital strategy. Just about me, I mean, I was also in the US. I worked for the federal government on a White House initiative called the National Council for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So I've been sort of interested in how governments can support entrepreneurship and where they should step in and where they should maybe step back. And I'm a little bit more skeptical than the rest of such Saad about how inclusive a digital economy can be.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Athar Imran. Sometimes it's good to be a backbencher, but other times not when you're introducing yourself at the end. All the high-profile folks. So I'm currently CEO of Cybrid Private Limited. It is one of the Lexan Group companies. The company does IT services, got managed services, software development, call centers. So it's one of the 17, 18 companies that the group has, based out of Islamabad, Karachi, Sharjah, and the subsidiary in US. Other than that, I'm president of Open Islamabad. Open is the organization of Pakistani entrepreneurs, which is a global network of Pakistani professionals, entrepreneurs around the world. It started from US, has 8 chapters in various cities of US, and then it's spread out to other countries. So the idea being that any city where there is a critical mass of entrepreneurs and professionals, Pakistani professionals, it provides a network, it provides a platform for them to connect with each other. What we do in Open Islamabad, which is one of the relatively newer chapters, just 3 years old, we provide, we have SIG tracks, which is special interest groups around a certain topic where the community comes, and around that topic they conduct certain events and talks. For example, we have one around design thinking, one around leadership, other is the startups garage. Then we do networking events. That's once a quarter. We just ask the professionals, entrepreneurs, people from public development sectors all to come and meet and just make connections that you're not normally wont to. And these are, as I say, they are structured to be unstructured events. But the idea being that you create those professional networks, which then translate into relationships and later on transactions based on those relationships. And finally. We have part of a lot of committees and help out public sector organizations. We've got a lot of partner organizations. Shan just mentioned Code for Pakistan. That's one of the organizations that we help get started in Islamabad. And then we work with SEC and PDA and ICT and RD Fund in various capacities to help them. So that's a kind of an overview of Open Islamabad. I think these are very exciting times. I think all the ingredients are coming together. It all looks like a failure when you're in the middle of it. That's one of the laws. But I think as long as you know where you're going, so.
So I think we have a mix of really amazing people here because Khurram here works on a very global level, understands the market. We have people who understand the social entrepreneurship sector in terms of what skills are needed and in terms of what ecosystem can be built with communities. So I would like to start with Khurram. This is a discussion that we've been having before we started off here. So how many of you here are startups? Perfect, Zabardast. And I think there are a lot of questions that startups have, but before questions ke alawa bhi, I think one of the challenges that startups have is to kind of understand the mindset, the growth mindset of how do you go from being a startup to becoming a big company. And I would like to, give this, ask Khurram to start with this question, is to kind of give us an insight into the sort of challenges you've been a part of. You've been mentoring different incubators and accelerators so far in Pakistan. What is that mindset of a local entrepreneur that you would like to change? What are those points that you would like to kind of?
Thanks, Saad. So before I answer that question, just a couple of caveats. First of all, I just landed here this morning, so pardon me if I'm a little zoned out in between my answers. Second, look, I think Pakistan fundamentally has one pretty big issue, and that's negativity. And it's something that I really try to kind of talk about, and we need to be far more positive, and especially in the startup ecosystem. So while I'll share kind of the things that I think we need to work on, I think I must preface that by saying that there's some fantastic things going on in the startup ecosystem. I'm loving how many people are taking this leap at different points in their career. So there's a lot of positivity on that side. But obviously, because the purpose of this is to benefit startups and have them thinking outside about the issues that they face, so maybe I'll talk a little bit about the challenges. From my perspective, I think one of the biggest issues that I see is just not having a focus on building a sales and distribution network and a channel to actually grow their business. Why do I say that? In my work, I've worked with a bunch of companies that were at some point a startup and have scaled, and others that had scaled and then failed. So you have the likes of Zameen and Kareem that when we started working with them, they really were working out of a small office, and now they're just pretty fantastic companies with hundreds and hundreds of people working for them. And then there are others that I'm not going to name, but they actually had a nice setup, but they were just not able to sustain. And the big difference that I see between those two is that the likes of Zameen and Kareem really focused on sales and business development. And just because you're an online company doesn't mean that all you need to do is build a product. You still need to sell that product. Let's take Google and Facebook and these big international tech companies. At the end of the day, I'm on a sales team at Google, right? When someone like Google actually invests tons and tons of money in building a sales team, then what should startups also be doing, right? So that'd be the one thing that I say I think startups really need to focus on. The second thing I'd say is more on the side of team building. I think I've worked in the corporate sector in Pakistan as well, and I've seen time and again this fear at the manager level actually runs pretty contrary to this belief we have, at least at Google and even in other companies that I've seen work really well, that you should actually be looking to hire people that are way smarter than you and then give them the leeway to go and do what you to get the right team, the right leadership team together to be able to scale up front, because that's the first couple of years is where you're either going to make it, as I say, scale or fail, right? So it's really critical.
Getting the perspective of what IDUA has been working on in the social impact space, I would like to understand more on why these entrepreneurs want to solve problems to help their communities and help the society. So in your experience working with entrepreneurs in Pakistan, what are some of the good examples or stories that you have seen with startups in which they're trying to solve the problem, build a business, but at the same time are trying to help the society as well? And is that a good model to go with? Are there case studies or are there successes that you have seen which have proved that this might actually work?
Well, firstly, I personally don't like to differentiate between entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, because I think all of us would agree that all sorts of entrepreneurship does have very huge social impact in terms of the circulation of money in the economy, in terms of empowering people through jobs, etc., etc. So you can be building a purely tech company, but there will still be social impact to your entrepreneurship. But the companies that we work with at Invest to Innovate through our accelerator cycle are companies that have what we like to call deliberate social impact, which means your business model is built around the social impact, and the revenue model and everything else is a part of it, but the social impact is your core business. And there are tons of examples of great companies that are doing that. The problem with social impact companies comes with monetization. It is, I think, globally hard to figure out revenue models for social impact businesses, and which is why we have such a big development sector and so many NGOs that don't focus on the revenue models and survive on donations. But that's also something we're trying to change. We want to bring in sustainability. As to companies that have done it successfully, there are a lot of them. I don't know how many, or at least in Pakistan, there are companies that are surviving so far and doing a good job. Because I don't think we've had a very big success. Am I correct? Heather? Can you think of a social impact company that has made really big? Yeah, they're on the way, but they're not at that level. But Sean is talking about doctors. That's one of my personal favorites as well. Have you guys here heard about doctors? Okay, so there are a couple of doctors, a couple of women doctors, who couldn't work once they became mothers or became pregnant or got married. And they felt like they had a lot more to offer. And they realized that there are a lot of places in Pakistan that don't have access to doctors at all. So they decided that there was a need gap on two ends. There were women doctors who were sitting at home who couldn't go out and work. And then there were a lot of communities that couldn't get good doctors to come to them and work in those communities. And so they decided to use what is globally a pretty easily available telemedicine system, but then they localized it to social norms and based on our socioeconomic systems and our systems of lady health workers and practicing nurses in small communities. So what they do is they go into a clinic of an existing nurse in some rural area in Pakistan, and they say, we are going to refurbish your setup. We're going to bring in our technology. We're going to give you the training required, and we're going to install those screens or those monitors. And then when a patient comes in, the nurse does the basic examination, sends the data over to a doctor who's sitting in her home working on this case. And then the doctor and the nurse together are going to deal with the patient and prescribe medication. And it's working really well. They're doing great strides. They still have a long way to go, and we're all here to support them in that. So yes, social entrepreneurship is working in Pakistan, but I think the why has to be correct. Unfortunately, and I'm going to perhaps be in Sean's team on this one, unfortunately entrepreneurship and social impact have become really big buzzwords. And so a lot of people are doing it perhaps for the wrong reasons. Because if you work, especially in social entrepreneurship, if you work with women, if you work with marginalized communities, if you work with the poor people, you can become a rock star without doing a lot of work just with your idea. But then you have to follow it up with a lot of hard work if you want to be taken seriously. Because those that are in the ecosystem, it's very hard to then see the people who fizzle out after 2 or 3 competitions that they won because they're not really doing enough of actual hard work. Does that answer your question, Saad?
I think it does, and to summarize that, it's kind of having the mindset that a social business which does not think like a business will never be a business. And that's the thing that, I think we need to kind of change. And I think just building on to that, I would like Sean to tell a little bit about the different initiatives that he's working on with the KP government, because I know while we talk about National Incubation Center, while we talk about entrepreneurship, startups, there is another very, very important layer that's missing, and that layer is of either skills, that layer is either of inclusion, but when we say inclusion, we mean digital inclusion. So I'll let Sean talk a little bit about that, on how in the KP area, the sort of initiatives that he's working on. Entrepreneurship might be a part of it, but there's more to that picture.
So just 2 anecdotes. The way here, I took Kareem, and the driver said that he never knew how to use his phone, and his daughter had to teach him how to use his phone. So his first sort of digital intervention was done by his daughter, and now he's a Kareem driver. He doesn't own the car, it's an investor's car, but there's a sort of linkage that's been made because of the job opportunity. Second anecdote is I was at a school here in Islamabad, and there was a kid who had never been to formal school before. He was sort of in the 2nd grade, and he was 16 years old, and he had started a business. He bought a Zong 4G device, and he was selling the password to other kids every day for like 15 rupees. The point is sort of like innovation and entrepreneurship comes from everywhere, right? It's not something that, sitting in sort of these fancy rooms are coming up with. It's everywhere, it's all around our culture. So working with the IT board, we're sort of thinking of innovation as more of a ground-up thing. So our plan is to build community innovation labs across the province. And there won't be sort of formal incubation centers. If you have a great idea, then plan is to provide you the mentorship. But the need we see just generally across this country is A, young people need places just to go and hang out. And B, you need the sort of basic skill level which is not being taught in the primary school and is not being taught even in the secondary school. Sort of the skills of the future are how to participate on the internet. Like it's almost as fundamental as reading and writing. These are sort of larger scale transformations that from a public policy perspective, it's how do you expand access and how do you expand effective use of the internet, which is a piece that if Pakistan doesn't figure out right now, I think not only will inequalities widen, but there'll also be, some scary sort of social disruptions also. So I think we'll have to be very careful and policymakers need to be very sort of focused on this, which is what we as a bank are trying to help, at least at our KP.
And Atul, the question that I have for you is more in terms of communities, because I think Open has built an amazing community. I'm part of that community, and the sort of way I see people collaborating with each other, I've not seen in other communities. And I would love to learn about how do you make that happen, first of all, and what can the startups actually get from such communities? Because one of the issues that I've seen in Pakistan generally is that people, startups, young people, they don't like to go in communities much. And building something, unless you're part of that support network, where you can actually find mentors, you won't be able to accelerate. And that's something that I would like to know, how you've been able to build that community. Have there been any success stories in terms of people meeting up, starting something new? Tell us a little bit about the 6 that you guys run.
So, you have to first of all understand what is the fundamental belief. Okay, let's start with how we function by default. By default, we'll only go and meet with people that we are supposed to meet. It's either our friends, it's either our family, or it's either our colleagues. That's typically how we function. And then comes what we believe in. So it's very, very important that you understand that unless and until there is going to be a very, very strong network, either of an individual, professional, or an organization. So Telenor needs, or Mobilink needs, as strong a network as an individual who is just starting. So that is extremely important. So it also contradicts with the default way in which everybody works. And hence you have to make some explicit, some deliberate effort to make that happen. And what we believe in is that when you're starting up, you need to not only have a big network, you need to have a diverse network as well. So you need to know people in technology, you need to know people in banks, you need to know people in government, you need to know people in the development sector. And what we did is that, and we studied how Silicon Valley works, we studied how DC works. So it's not only just the tech sector. And with the tech, it becomes more pronounced because by engineers, I'm an engineer, any of our events, there's going to be a networking that's going to happen. And I define networking as essentially 3 stages. One is to make a connection. For example, I don't know Saad, I will go and I'm going to introduce exchange cards, but that's just an introduction. That's just a connection that we make, but that's not enough. Then I have the second step is when you follow up and you meet again, you have to build a relationship out of that connection. And then based on that, you and I and Saad can, collaborate on something and make certain things happen. So you can have some transactions coming out of that relationship. So it's a 3-step process. So while we can provide a platform for the first step, that is make a connection, but then we encourage and train and motivate people to turn it into a relationship. So our networking events have been, explicit networking. So we make sure that there's no talk. We make sure there's no other agenda. And we try to get as diverse a group as possible because, it's just like if you know accounting and you keep on reading books of accounting, you'll just become a better accountant. You'll not become a better professional. You'll not become a better business person. So we do these quarterly networking events at a beautiful place, 1969, and we just have everybody come and meet. But even in our SIG tracks, which is like focus sessions on a certain topic, we make sure that we have tea and biscuits at the end, the idea being not tea and biscuits, but the idea being that we talk to each other on those tea and biscuits. That's an extremely important thing that we do. But every introduction that we make for any open event, we will say that at the end of the day, at the end of the event, please go, don't stand with your friend or your colleague, Just go and meet up somebody that you don't know. Exchange a card, but then also follow. So very interesting things have happened out of it. We go and meet and we said, two people started working together and we said, okay, how did that, happen? So first time we met was at an open event. So we've seen, good collaborations happening. We've seen people getting hired. We've sort of seen even smaller JVs kind of set up. There's a good anecdote that I always share is that a friend of mine, she reached out to my wife that, there's a couple, they were trying to have some rishta and everything, and they wanted the boy and the girl to meet. And it being conservative families, they cannot meet up at any place. So he said, it's very simple, there's an open event coming up, we'll make that happen. So that's the, one of the, not intended, but unintended ways in which it. But the idea being, it came so natural that this is a community thing in which, a lot of these transactions can happen. But you have to be very explicit and deliberate about it. You have to build up your network in a very, very deliberate way. And when you say network in a relationship, it means that it's not that you're trying to get something out of it. First of all, you have to give something in that relationship to expect something. So I think that's as long as you're explicit in your mind and you have it very clear that what the model is, I think it will happen. The modalities can be very different, but I think the concept has to be.
So I'll start with the question and tell them, because I don't have my phone, so Madiha, if you have the question, you can just give them to me and just shout it out. The first question that I have, and anyone of you can, take this, is, so these guys are here, they have startups. Next step, agar inhone koi lena ho, like what's the next thing that they need to do? What do they need to prioritize? And I've seen this is a major challenge. Some people think it's the team. Some people think it's, marketing, sales. And I know this because the variance of this answer is always very much based on the experience of the people. So I think each one of you can take a shot at this, and based on your own experiences, like from a Google mindset, from I2I, from World Bank, from Open. So yeah, what is the first thing that they need to do, and how do they need to prioritize to build the next big startup?
Okay, so I'll say two things. The first one I will say is team, and that's an ongoing thing. I mean, if you're not spending 20 to 25% of your time trying to build a better team on an ongoing basis, or you have someone at the leadership level not doing that, then you've got an issue. Even if it's a 5-person, 10-person, 1-person team, and even at Google, a lot of our time is actually spent figuring out how to get the right people in the right positions internally, whether it's external hires or internal lateral movements. So make sure you focus on that. The second thing is what I'd call hypothesis testing. There are a lot of assumptions that we as a nation just take and run with. We heard this, someone told us this, and you don't ask, hey, what's the data behind it? What are you basing this on? You just say, hey, you repeat that, and then it just kind of becomes a truth because so many people repeat it. Kareem and Uber are a great example. When they were initially thinking of coming here, I must have talked to at least 15, 20 people across all, different social strata, drivers, professionals, investors, entrepreneurs, and each and every one of them told me that there is no way this will work in Pakistan. There is no way that women will be using this by themselves. And you know what? They were all wrong. So when you actually are building a product or building a startup, and one of your team members or someone, an advisor, whatever, gives you a statement saying that this is the way it is, you need to you can assume that's true, but then the onus is on you to go out there and figure out how can you prove it false. I'll give you another example. In the e-commerce sector in Pakistan, I've worked with a bunch of people, again, pretty small to pretty large. And across the board, what we hear is, payments is the real problem. That's why e-commerce isn't really taking off. But you know what? Till about a year and a half ago, India, which is more than 10x our e-commerce market, 90% of their payments were cash on delivery. Right? 90%. It's now, because they've really made a concerted effort to digitize payments in India, it's I think on the 60 to 65% level now, still, after that. So clearly that's not the reason. There's got to be some other reasons. And then you continue your journey on figuring out what the actual reasons are. So that has to be an ongoing journey from day one. Do not assume anything. Figure out what your hypothesis or assumption is, and then figure out how you're going to go out there and prove it wrong. And if you can prove it wrong, then keep going down that path to build your product, your sales team, your distribution channels, and the entire startup.
Thank you, Kuram. I agree with everything Kuram said, and I'll add two of my own. So for me, and I don't know, because this question is a hard one, because we don't really know what stage the people in the room are at, and all of you are probably going to be at very different stages from each other. But one of the things that I have seen happen time and time again is that startups and founders will just continue to be focused on what they're building, and they will just not take the next step, which is, and this happened recently at one of our community showcases where a startup was pitching, and then somebody in the audience, one of the mentors, said, well, have you just ever considered putting it in front of someone and saying, buy it? And I think that's the one step where there's probably one of the largest gaps. The building of something, and then the actual first sale, or just actually going to the first customer and saying, buy it. Because then a lot of your hypotheses will be tested. And you need to do this earlier rather than later. Don't spend 10 years building your product and then find out that the other person's going to say, pass. I'm not interested in this. So you've got to do this sooner. And as soon as you have a minimum viable product, as soon as you have a little bit of it done, go out, test it out, and try to sell it. The second thing is, we have I was in Aptabad recently doing an inspiration and motivation session on entrepreneurship. And I've taught entrepreneurship at a business school here in Islamabad, and it's one of the, I think, the negativity that Khurram talked about. We're very focused on the resources we don't have. And if we can just change that focus, tilt it a little bit to the resources we do have, and then figuring out creative solutions to get things done. And there are going to be ways around taxation and registering your business and all sorts of legal stuff that you probably don't have money for. There's going to be product development stuff that you don't have money for. There's going to be maybe you don't have, and resources can mean your education and your knowledge capacity too. And so reach out. There's so many people, and that's my favorite thing about this ecosystem now. There are people like Athar and people in the open community. There are people like Khurram who come to Pakistan. There are people like Sean who have very in-depth knowledge of specific demographics and socioeconomic segments. There are people like Saad, who I think is always available to people. Then there are platforms like ours. There's platforms like this. I think when I came back to Pakistan in 2015, one of the things that absolutely shocked me was the sheer number of people who've done good things in their lives, who have now made their hours available to people like me and you if we have questions and if we have needs. So if you're not a finance wizard, just find someone who can help you make those projections. If you're not a tech person, I was just asking Khurram for help right before. If you're not a digital social media guy, find someone like Saad and ask them for some advice. And you'll probably get something good out of it. But you're the one that it has to stem from. It's not going to come from these people. It has to come from you. So I guess that would be the next step for me.
I'd also reiterate Khurram's point. I think invest in research, and you don't need now a sort of team of market researchers. Like, you can do a Facebook poll and you'll get sort of more interesting responses than talking to the 10 people that you know, and that product validation is not talking to the 10 people you know, right? You have to talk to as many people as you know. Now there's tools where it's really easy to get really good insights. Maybe get a team member who understands data science and understands statistics. I mean, because any of the products that you guys will build for the future, I mean, data is where the value will come from. So planning for the future, I mean, these are skills that aren't super hard. You don't have to be a math nerd to understand basic data science. But I think, I mean, plan for, everybody advocate for the census to happen so we know how many people live in this country. And then, think about how you'll develop the capacity in-house to see trends from data, because data is the future.
This is the time where all the good answers are already taken. There's just two brief things, and then we can have. So one is, I always tell the startups, entrepreneurs, anybody for that matter, but especially for people who are starting up their own business, own setups, that you have to be extremely focused. So what you're doing can change. You will pivot, you will refine your product, but you have to be eating, sleeping, breathing your business. I'm not saying your product, I'm saying your business, day in, day out. One of my pet peeves is that entrepreneurship, just like it's become a buzzword, a lot of things, I don't like a lot of glamorization that is happening around us. So there's a difference between promotion and, helping out and glamorization. So a lot of, trips abroad and companies sponsoring it and, Facebook hypes, all good, but there has to be a limit to that, because sometimes it takes you away from your core focus. And once you get away from your core focus, especially as Param said, in the first 2 years of your company, I mean, all startups, I mean, they're like 20 hours a day. You have to be just living that. So that I see a very, very important aspect everybody needs to understand. And second, that you have to create something which has value. So for sometimes a lot of focus is that you're going to be profitable in the first year, and cash flows are going to be positive. That's how they pitch it. A lot of successful IPOs are of the companies that have been in loss. I think Snapchat is a very good recent example. Loss in terms of their P&L, but just that what they've created and what their growth is and what their numbers are is that they have value. People understand the value of that product. So you create something that has value. So these are the two things that, apart from all the other good things. I like Param's thing, which obviously comes from Google. It has to be data-driven. It's extremely important. But that's right. I mean, there's the Great by Choice, a great book by Collins. I mean, there's one of the three things that is called empirical paranoia. That you need to really, really, get analysis, get your data yourself, and make your own decisions based on. So decisions at the end of the day may be qualitative, may be subjective, but they're always based on something quantitative. It's just pure qualitative decisions. Sometimes you have to go with a hunch, at the gut feeling, but that has to be based out of initial quantitative analysis that you have done.
So do we have any questions from the audience? Can I get them?
Assalamualaikum. I have a question. This is from the social media.
By 12, and he said, give me a little, go test it out in interior sin, then go hard and Gilgit Baltistan, and then figure out this. It's a product that impacts the environment, and so far the level of testing that's already been done proves that it's a very good product. But he's so focused. I keep telling him, you need to get someone to run this and maybe go do your PhD. Because you're so focused on the social impact, the business is going to suffer. But he's actually pivoted already. He sent me an email yesterday and said, you remember how you said you would buy one, do you want one? Because I've started producing. And I was super excited. And that's something we've been pushing him to do. So it's just as simple as that, honestly. There's no rocket science to it. There's no formula to it. You have a good social impact idea. Maybe sit with some people who have experience developing revenue models. There are a bunch of really good exercises you can find. Just Google revenue model canvas, and you'll find a a bunch of really good exercises that will force you to deliberately think in terms of developing alternate revenue sources for your existing business. So do things like that.